And so I want you to think about some other vendors that you work with, other benefits that you offer. And I'm curious if you could explain, what role do you want those vendors to play for you in HR, but then also what role should they be playing with your employees? So Felipe, if you wanted to get started, that would be great.
Sure. This is a very important topic to me because I think vendor relationships are so key. Our philosophy and everything we do is about building relationships, whether it's with our employees or our members or our vendors. And I think that one of the expectations I've always had is because I think we've all had the experience where you've had a vendor where you had a great representative and maybe they'd left the company and you got somebody else and it just went down. I think when you have an organization that has a culture that values the relationship building, you can see that whoever you deal with, I know if I'm dealing with Allison or Jim or Alex, it doesn't matter. I'm getting the same experience. I'm getting the same attention that I would from any of them because they all individually have built relationships with us, as well as other people on your team, of course. So I look for somebody who not only is looking to build that relationship, maintain it, and continue it, but also be able, if it's appropriate, build them with our employees. AFS is great about doing that. I have some other vendors that are great about doing that. And those relationships grow to the point where our employees trust the vendors, our employees trust the benefits. They will reach out to AFS and other vendors on their own without even going through HR, which is, if you're an HR professional, that's a blessing to be taken out of the middleman and have someone else go directly to that. That's a wonderful thing. So thank you for that, Allison. And the last thing I'll say about this is that if you build that relationship and you have a tight relationship, it gives and takes. As much as you give them, they give back. We have partnered on so many different ventures with AFS, with other ones. I have a vendor who we aren't currently using them this year. I probably will go back to them next year. But during this year that we have not used them, they have reached out to me at least 6 times, and we have spoken 5 times. Just to see how I'm doing, checking up, how the family's doing. They know my history. One of them went to the same college as I did. So we have these connections. That was such a brilliant and wonderful thing to see that I knew I was working with the right vendor because even when we stopped working with them, they still valued the relationship.
What about you, Maggie?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of what Felipe said, frankly. I think for us as an organization in particular, one thing that we're looking at when we are looking at vendors is and partners is partnering with organizations whose values are closely aligned with ours as well. That's a really important piece to, I think who you are choosing to connect your employees to. And I think, again, like Felipe said, having vendor relationships with partners who are willing to be in direct contact with your staff are so important. Of course, the team at AFS is like that. Our staff hardly even go through us at all. They reach out directly to Allison, frankly. And our benefits brokers are the same way. Our staff know their faces. They know they can reach out to them. They're trusted agents. They know that our partnerships with these vendors are designed to ensure that we're providing folks with the most robust benefits, services, et cetera, that we can. And so ensuring that that sort of direct connection between our partners and our employees, I think, has been really critical to ensuring successful partnerships, as well as just, again, building that trust. It's really, really important for our staff to be able to know that they can reach out to our vendors. So,
yeah, thank you for that. And it is true, right? You don't want to just provide a service. You want to know that somebody is looking at you as a person. So Felipe, you mentioned that you had a prior vendor, and now you're not working together, but maybe you're going to come back. So I was hoping you could both talk about the criteria you use to evaluate and maybe even get into, what are when you are changing vendors, whether you're going back or forth, what are you looking for? Why are you making changes? And Felipe, I'm going to have you go first, only because you already, you kind of mentioned that you're in this position.
Obviously, things that would cause me not to start looking, first of all, would be that disconnection, that lack of engagement, that lack of trust. Those are key things. If those are happening, I'm going to do that. Now, I'll be honest. Every year or two, I'm still going to entertain another vendor just to make sure that my current vendor is keeping their game up. And AFS is always keeping their game up. Never worried about you all. But there are other vendors that, God, we've used them for years. How do we know they are still the best? How do we know there isn't something better out there? And many times it just solidifies we have the right vendor and we're going to stick with them. But in this case here, when I'm looking back at them, I look at people's core values. I look at make sure that their mission and their community involvement matches our core values and our mission. Because if they're not matching it, it makes it hard to connect with us. I think it's hard to connect with the company, the individuals, the employees. I know that AFS is definitely dedicated to the community. That's a big thing for us. Financial education obviously is a huge thing for us as well as for you all. So we have common grounds, but outside of that, support. I'm looking for someone that's going to support our company because we want to support them. If it's a vendor that is coming to provide service and give us a service and give us good customer service as well, great. That's the standard. What are you going to do to make yourself stand out amongst other vendors? And that goes back to that partnership, that relationship. I know that Allison and the AFS team has been wonderful about partnering with Signal when we have events. I don't think you've ever said no. and so when you ask me about this, I'm like, I absolutely, not even a question. More than happy to, because again, we can't just take; we have to give and take. So that vendor relationship, having them not only have those values, promoting those values, speaking about it, but I'm going to validate. I want some references. I want to know other companies they've worked with and hear what their experience was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think, long gone are the days where like you only get to talk to your broker during renewal season, right? Like this is a symbiotic relationship. It is a commitment and a relationship to grow and build and invest in. And so I think, really looking at a particular partner's service model is important, and what they're able to provide. I think that engagement as well. It's funny that you say that, Felipe, that, of course you do your due diligence every few years, and mine is a little less regular, because when I find somebody I really like, I'm, and they're doing such a good job and we're working well together, it seems like, why disrupt such a great thing? Although I do understand it's obviously a good business practice to do these things every few years, but I actually hate that time when I have to do that, because I know from my own experience that the vendors that we're working with are really top notch, and so I try to ensure I'm not distracted by the shiny or glittery thing on the other side, when I know that I have solid people with solid, core values, as you mentioned, that are working in great partnership with us and our staff. So.
But isn't it great validation of when you reach out and you find out, oh, they're definitely doing the job better than these other people, or they give you some ideas and you go back to your vendor and like, hey, is there any chance you're able to do this? Like, oh yeah, we could absolutely do that. So you might get good ideas that your current vendor can help you with. So I'm with you. I'm not looking to lose good relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm looking just for good ideas.
I would agree with you that sometimes you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know what to ask. And so when you're talking to other groups that might, give you some ideas,